Ever get that feeling, that like there's got to be more to life than what we see every day, like a deeper purpose or something?
Absolutely. That search for meaning is something I think we all grapple with.
Well, today we're diving into a text that might have some answers, a conversation with this. Well, he's actually a Russian Orthodox mystic, Saint Seraphim of Sarov.
And what's really interesting about this is it's not just some, out there religious stuff. It's about experiencing true joy and peace, which I think everyone wants.
Exactly. And that's what makes this conversation so fascinating. So, picture this. It's a gloomy winter day. Saint Seraphim is talking with one of his followers, a guy named Motovilov, and they're just chatting. When suddenly, Saint Seraphim drops this bombshell. He says that the true aim of being a Christian isn't just about, like, being a good person.
It's about something more, he says.
Yeah, it's about something he calls acquiring the Holy Spirit.
And he's not talking about some vague idea here.
Yeah.
What he means by the Holy Spirit is that active presence of God that helps us to become the best versions of ourselves.
Hmm.
It's that kind of guiding force within us that leads to, real happiness, real fulfillment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get that we all want to be our best selves and all that, but acquiring the Holy Spirit, I don't know, it sounds kind of abstract. How do you even begin to acquire something like that?
Well, Saint Seraphim uses this really interesting analogy to explain it. He says it's a lot like, acquiring wealth.
Yep.
We don't just wake up one day with a ton of money, right?
Right.
You've got to put in the work, make smart choices, invest wisely, and then over time, slowly, we start to accumulate wealth. Yeah.
So you're saying that acquiring the Holy Spirit is like this ongoing process, like a spiritual investment portfolio, kind of. You make good choices and that grows your spiritual wealth.
Exactly. You've got to, it is all about, cultivating the right conditions within ourselves to allow the Holy Spirit to grow and flourish. And just like with a financial portfolio, certain actions, they're going to be more valuable than others, right?
Oh, really?
And to illustrate this, Saint Seraphim, he actually uses the parable of the wise and foolish virgins.
Oh, right, from the Gospels. The ones with the lamps, right. Who forgot to bring extra oil. What does that have to do with this, with investing in the Holy Spirit?
Well, the foolish virgins, even though they looked the part, they weren't really prepared, right?
Yeah.
They went through the motions, but they forgot that crucial element,
Yeah.
that oil, which in this parable, that represents the grace of the Holy Spirit.
So it's not enough to just like do good things outwardly.
Yeah.
You need that inner connection, that grace to make your actions really meaningful.
Now you're getting it. And this is where understanding what Saint Seraphim calls the three wills becomes really important. These wills are basically like forces that can influence us in different directions.
Okay, interesting. Let's break down these three wills. What are they?
Yeah. So the first one, it's God's will, right?
Yeah.
And that's all about love, growth, us reaching our full potential as human beings.
Okay, sounds good so far.
Right. Then there's our own human will, which, let's face it, can be a bit of a mixed bag sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes it lines up perfectly with God's will. We're on the right track. But then other times it's more focused on, what we want in the moment.
Yeah, those treat yourself impulses, even if it's not the best choice in the long run.
Precisely. The I want it now kind of thinking.
And then there's a third will. I'm guessing this is where things get a little more, shall we say, tempting.
Ah, you got it. This third will, it's often that voice of temptation pulling us away from what we know is truly best for us.
So sneaky.
Right. It might be whispering in our ear, go ahead, indulge. One more slice of cake won't hurt.
Yeah.
Or it might be that voice of self-doubt that pops up at the worst possible time. Anything to throw us off track,
So with all these different wills pulling us in different directions, how do we make sure that we're aligned with the right one? The one that leads us towards, this whole idea of acquiring the Holy Spirit.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Mm.
And Saint Seraphim, he points to prayer as being a really powerful way to strengthen that connection with God's will. And I'm not just talking about reciting memorized words,
Yeah.
Going through the motions.
Right.
But really opening ourselves up to hearing that inner guidance.
Prayer is a two-way conversation. I like that.
Exactly.
But I don't know, sometimes it feels like I'm just talking to the ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
How can I be sure that I'm actually getting through, that my prayers are actually doing anything?
Oh, trust me, that's a common feeling. A lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah.
But Saint Seraphim, he's very clear on this point. Prayer, he says, it's not about getting what we think we want.
Okay.
It's about surrendering our own limited perspective and aligning ourselves with God's will, which might look completely different from what we initially had in mind.
So it's about surrendering the outcome. trusting that whatever happens is for our ultimate good, even if we don't see it right away.
Now you're getting it. It's about letting go of our ego's desires and opening ourselves up to a wisdom that's far beyond our own.
Okay.
And, this reminds me of a story Saint Seraphim shared about a distraught mother who had lost her son, and a harlot.
Oh, wow. Okay, this sounds intriguing.
Yeah, so this mother, she's completely heartbroken, right? And in her grief, she encounters this harlot, someone who, at the time, would have been considered, well, far from holy, let's say.
Right, right.
But it was the harlot's prayer, a prayer filled with such genuine compassion and humility that it actually moved God to act.
Really?
And her son, he was brought back to life.
Wow. That's a powerful story.
It is, and it highlights this really important point. The Holy Spirit, it can work through anyone, regardless of their past, their social standing, any of that. It's the sincerity of our hearts, that willingness to connect with something greater than ourselves, that paves the way for grace.
It's not about being perfect.
Exactly.
It's about that genuine desire to connect.
It makes me think that sometimes maybe we put too much pressure on ourselves to be perfect in our spiritual practice.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like we have to have it all figured out before we even begin,
Like we're not good enough or something.
Exactly. But remember what we were saying earlier about acquiring the Holy Spirit being a process.
Right, like a journey.
It's not about achieving some kind of spiritual perfection overnight.
Yeah, no pressure.
None at all. It's about those small, consistent steps we take day after day, to cultivate that inner connection, that relationship with the divine.
Okay, that makes sense. But if it is this process, this journey of acquiring the Holy Spirit, how do we actually know if we're making any progress? Like, is there a way to recognize its presence in our lives?
That's the question, isn't it? I mean, we live in this world that's obsessed with instant results.
Oh, tell me about it. Give it to me now.
Right. We want the tangible proof, but the Holy Spirit, well, it doesn't exactly work on a checklist system.
Right. It's not like you get a notification on your phone. Congratulations, you've acquired the Holy Spirit.
Wouldn't that be something?
Right.
But in all seriousness, what Saint Seraphim emphasizes is this. While we might crave those big flashy signs, those aha moments, a lot of times the Holy Spirit, it works in much subtler ways.
So we need to be more attuned to the whispers, those subtle nudges, instead of expecting some kind of like divine fireworks display.
Now you're getting it. Think about all those biblical accounts of people encountering the divine, right? Moses and the burning bush, for example.
Yeah.
It wasn't always thunder and lightning, a big dramatic spectacle.
Right.
Sometimes it was a still, small voice, a gentle breeze, something that could easily be missed if you weren't paying attention.
Moments that might seem ordinary if you weren't paying attention.
Exactly. And I think that's an important point for us to remember today, especially in our modern world.
Okay, how so?
Well, we're constantly bombarded with information, with stimuli, with noise.
Oh, yeah, it's overwhelming.
Right. And it's easy to get so caught up in all of that that we miss those subtler signs.
Those little synchronicities.
Exactly. Those moments that, deep down seem too uncanny to be mere coincidence.
It's like we've become desensitized to the extraordinary because we're so used to the ordinary.
That's a great way to put it. And I think that's why cultivating a sense of presence, of mindfulness, it becomes so essential in our day and age.
So we can start to notice those things again.
Exactly. Because it's in those quiet moments when we're fully present to ourselves, to the world around us, that we're more likely to perceive the gentle whisper of the Holy Spirit.
Okay, this is all making a lot of sense, I have to say. But in this text we're talking about, Motovilov, he's clearly a bit of an eager student.
A little bit.
Well, he wants concrete proof, right?
Yeah.
So he just comes right out and asks Saint Seraphim point blank, how can I know for certain that I'm experiencing the Holy Spirit? And that's when things get really interesting.
That's an understatement. Because Saint Seraphim, he doesn't just give him some theoretical answer or a parable. No, he gives him a full-on demonstration.
Okay, now I have to know what happens next.
Well, picture this. Saint Seraphim, right before Motovilov's very eyes, is enveloped in this radiant light, brighter than the sun.
Whoa, wait a minute. This wasn't a dream. He actually saw this happening.
That's what's so remarkable about this encounter. Motovilov describes it as this tangible, physical experience.
Wow.
He even describes the sensations. A warmth, like being in a Russian bathhouse, he says, but without that stifling air.
Okay.
And a fragrance, more beautiful than any perfume he'd ever encountered.
Okay, now that's what I call an aha moment. But
Yeah.
it's also kind of blown my mind a little.
Yeah.
So you're saying that experiencing the Holy Spirit can actually have physical sensations associated with it.
Yeah, it's like all of our senses are suddenly waking up to this whole other reality that's always been there, you know?
Yeah, like there's more to life than what we can see and touch.
Exactly. It's like Saint Seraphim is saying, hey, this Holy Spirit thing, it's not just some abstract idea.
Yeah.
You can experience it too. It's real.
It makes you think about those moments when you're just totally in awe of something, like a beautiful sunset or a piece of music that really moves you.
Right, exactly. Maybe those experiences, those are like little glimpses into the reality of the Holy Spirit's presence.
Yeah, like little reminders that we're connected to something much bigger than ourselves.
I love that. It's like our souls are remembering something they'd forgotten, like a frequency they
Oh,
recognize.
I love that analogy.
And, I think that's really the core of what Saint Seraphim wants us to understand here. It's not about us having to become something we're not.
It's about remembering who we really are.
Yes, we are beings of light, capable of experiencing the divine within us and all around us.
So, for someone listening to this and they're thinking, this all sounds amazing, but where do I even begin? What advice would you give them?
That's a good question. I'd say start by just being open. Be curious. Pay attention to those moments that take your breath away, that fill you with gratitude, those moments that make you feel truly alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
What if those are actually invitations to go deeper, to connect with the Holy Spirit in a more real way?
And maybe instead of trying to force it or make it happen, we just need to create the space for it to unfold naturally.
Yes, 100%. It's like we were talking about with prayer earlier, right? It's not about demanding or trying to control the outcome.
Right.
It's about surrendering, trusting, and just being open to receiving whatever that looks like.
So maybe that's what acquiring the Holy Spirit really boils down to, opening ourselves up to a whole new way of experiencing life, ourselves, the world around us.
It's definitely a journey, that's for sure.
Yeah, but it sounds like it's a journey worth taking.
Oh, absolutely. And as we've seen with Saint Seraphim and Motovilov, it's a journey filled with awe and wonder, and it has the potential for really profound transformation.
Well, this has been incredible. I feel like we've gone on our own little journey with this deep dive.
I'd agree.
I have a whole new perspective on what it means to live a truly fulfilling life.
That's what it's all about. And who knows, maybe you'll start noticing those little whispers, those subtle signs of the Holy Spirit at work in your own life.
I hope so. I really do.
Just keep your heart and mind open. You never know what you might discover.
Definitely will do. That's great advice. And to everyone listening, until next time, keep exploring these big questions, keep the faith, and remember, you are a being of light.